Gyronix.
Welcome back to Statistics with Python. Today we are diving into the fundamentals of Python, the objects, the variables, and how Python binds these objects and variables. First, what are objects? In Python, everything is an object. Numbers, text, even functions. And this object has a data type that determines what kind of operations, what kind of things you can do to that particular object. Let's start with scalar objects. Scalar objects are indivisible, meaning they cannot be broken down into meaningful components, unlike the list or dictionary, which we will cover later. And they are also immutable, and that is, their values cannot be changed once they are created. Examples of immutable objects, and these are the primitive data types in Python. First, we have int. Int represents integers, whole numbers. So example 5. We also have float. So float represents real numbers. Those numbers with fractional part, example 3.5. Boolean. Boolean has only two values, true and false. And string. Actually, string is divisible object, but it is immutable. So it is a compound data type, consists of sequence of characters. And the last one is non-type. So non-type has only one value, none. Okay, so it's kind of weird, but yes, that's the value of non-type. So we have none. We can check the type of an object using this type function. For example, so the type of 5, so the Python will return int since 5 is an int. And for example, 3.5, so this will return float. And we can also convert the type of an object using typecasting. For example, this float function converts this 3, this is an int, so it will convert it to float, to 3.0. For us, these 3 and 3.0 are the same number, right? But in Python or in programming in general, so they are different data types. Okay, so they are different objects. This int function actually doesn't perform rounding off like 3.9 to 4, but it truncates 3.9 to 3. Okay, so let's have the simple exercise. Okay, find the type of the following. So let's perform this in Jupyter Notebook. Okay, after you have opened your VS Code, check if you're already in your folder, the one that we have created on lecture 1. So in my case, the Madrona. Okay, if not, you can browse. So file, open folder, then browse to your PC. Okay, so in my case, I have saved it in my OneDrive account. So select your folder. Now let's create some file. So let's name this L2, objects, and variables. So the extension is .ipynb. Okay, so let's create a nice title for this lecture 2. Okay, so we have hashtag, let's say objects and variables. Okay, so you can click this run all or just hit Ctrl Enter on the keyboard. That is the shortcut. Okay, so again, the shortcut is Ctrl Enter to run. Let's add some style to our title. So just double click. We'll be using HTML syntax, okay, HR for the header. Then we'll end with /HR. Okay, now the style. So we have style equals, so double quote. Then the border, so we will set so to 2.5 pixel, okay, px. Then it is solid. Okay, so that's nice. We can also add colors to that solid. Okay, so just double click. I will be using the hexadecimal color code. Okay, so this is for the dark teal. Okay, 126782. Okay, so just run. Okay, so that's a nice title. Okay, so another one, another markdown. Okay, I will label this as my name. Okay, Jairo A. Madrona. Then I am an electronics engineer. Okay, so we can have a break. Okay, so this one, just add BR. Okay, so let's run. Now I want my name to be bold. Okay, so we can add B. Then we will end with /B. Okay. Okay, so that's a nice name. Okay, so let's have another markdown for the outline. Let's label this as type of an object. Okay. Okay, now let's create some object. So you can hit that code or just letter B for the shortcut. Okay. So let's select first kernel. Okay, I have 3.13.3. Or you can browse to select another kernel. So whatever available in your PC. So in my case, I will select this one. Okay, 3.13.3. Okay, so make sure you have kernel selected. And again, the keyboard shortcut is B for the new cell. Okay, so let's delete this cell. Okay, so just type B on the keyboard. Okay, so let's check some type of an object. So let's say the type of 25. So obviously this is okay, int, right? Okay, so let's have another one. Again, I'm pressing B in the keyboard. So let's say the type of let's say 2.83. Okay, obviously this is a float. Okay, another one. Let's check the type of let's say 10.0. So again, it's not 10 but 10.0. So in Python, it will be evaluated as float. Okay, not a whole number but a float. Okay, another one. Okay, so let's try the type of, for example, true. This is Boolean, right? But take note, this uppercase T. So in case you have a typo, you type lowercase t, you will have an error. Okay, again, this is uppercase T. So for the true. So that is the same with false. False is also a Boolean. Okay. Okay, so far so good. Let me minimize this window. Okay, so you can click this one. Okay. Okay, so let's continue. Let's try, for example, the type of none. So this is none type. Okay, so let's try the type of, okay, we have single quote, hello world. This is string, right? So you can have single quote or double quote. Okay, so this type is a string. So it is a compound data type. Okay, well done. Next, we will perform typecasting. We will convert this 25, this int, to float. And this float to 0.83 to int. Then we will perform some rounding off numbers. Then after rounding off, we can typecast that value to float. Okay, so let's open our base code. Okay, so let's create another markdown for the outline. So we'll label this as typecasting. Okay. Okay, so let's have code. Okay, let's convert this 25, this into float. Okay, so let's run. Okay, so we have now 25.0. and we can verify its type, of course using the type function. So we can copy, okay, and paste it inside the function. Okay, so it is float now, the 25.0. Now let's try to convert this float to 0.83 to int. Okay, so it truncates to 2. It doesn't round off to 3. Okay, we can verify its type. So just copy paste. So paste it inside the parentheses. Okay, so it is int. But if we perform this round function, so this 2.83, okay, it will round off to 3. Alright? So this one is truncates to 2. Okay, let's verify the type. Okay, so we can copy paste. Obviously this int. Okay, so another one, let's convert this is int, right? So let's convert back to float. We have an error, so let's check. Okay, so this one, okay, type. So let's remove this type. So after rounding off to 2.83, we convert back to float. Okay, so it is 3.0. This one is 3. That is int. This one is float, right? So we can verify this one. So let's copy this inside the type function. Okay, so again, just copy. Okay, copy and paste. Okay, so this is a float. Well done in performing this exercise. Now let's discuss expressions. These are a combination of objects and operators, and it returns a single value, and that value has a type, data type. So example of operators. So there is our basic mathematical operators, right? So first we have this addition. It returns the sum of two objects. Subtraction, the difference. This asterisk, so that is multiplication. It returns the product. Then the slash, so returns the quotient of the objects. This percentage sign is the modulo, so it returns the remainder of two objects. And this double asterisk, so performs I to the power of j, for example. Operators have precedence, and it tells the order of operation, and highest is power, which means power is always evaluated first, followed by multiplication, division, third division, modulo. So these operators are in the same level, meaning it will be evaluated from left to right. So whichever comes first will also be evaluated first. The same with addition and subtraction. But parentheses override this precedence. So let's have an exercise to understand this operator precedence. The first example has power, and power is the highest, which means this 2 raised to 2 will be evaluated first. So basically the first example is 1 plus 4. So this is 5. But on the next one, so now the 1 plus 2 is in between the parentheses. And take note that parentheses override this precedence. So 1 plus 2 will be evaluated first. So it is 3. Then it will be raised to 2. Okay, so we have 9 for the second example. Multiplication and division have the same level. So whichever comes first. Okay, for this one, of course, 5 times 4 will be evaluated first. Okay, and for this one, so 5 divided by 4 will be evaluated first. The same with addition and subtraction. So whichever comes first. So for this case, 5 plus 4 comes first. And for this one, 5 minus 4 comes first. Okay? Now let's try this in our Jupyter notebook. Okay, first, let's create some markdown. Let's label this as expressions. Okay, so let's try first code. So we have 1 plus 2. Okay, so raised to 2. Okay, so this 2 raised to 2 will be evaluated first. So we have 1 plus 4. Okay, so we have 5. Okay, so another one, we can copy this. Okay, and let's wrap up this 1 plus 2 inside the parentheses. So this will change the precedence. Okay, so we have now 9, right? So that is 3 raised to 2. Okay, another one. Let's try 5 times 4, that is 20. Divided by 5. Okay, so we have 4. Okay, let's try to swap the operator. Let's divide first. So 5 divided by 4 times 5. Okay, so we have 6.25. Okay, so another one. Let's try 5 plus 4, that is 9. Minus 5. Of course, we have 4. Okay, so let's subtract first. Okay, 5 minus 4 is 1. Okay, plus 5. Okay, that is 6. Okay, well done. Now let's talk about variables. Think of a variable like a storage container for fruits. Okay, so for example, let's say we have 1,000 containers, so stacked each other, and at this location we have grape, let's say 100 pieces stored in that container. At location 2 we have, let's say, 400 apple. Location 4 we have 200 orange. Okay, so actually a variable is this label. Okay, the orange, the apple, and the grape. So these are the variable. In computer's memory, this location are called memory address in hexadecimal format. But it's quite hard for us to memorize these addresses. Okay, whereas the variable name are historical. Okay, but Python do not store the objects directly into this variable, but rather they bind the objects to the variable. To bind an object to a variable, we are using the assignment operator. So this equal sign. So this binds the variable to a value. Okay, value is the object. Okay, from right to left. The syntax is we have name equals value. Okay, again from right to left, not other way around. Okay, so you can have x equals 5, that is valid, but 5 equals x is invalid. Okay, so again from right to left. For example, we want to bind this 400 to an apple. So the statement would be apple equals 400. Okay, so this statement will bind our apple, the variable, into the object 400. Okay, but suppose we want to change the value. Let's say I want apple equals 20. So what happens is our 400 will lost its binding. It's still there in the memory, but it lost its binding to the apple. So what the Python does is it will create another object in the memory, so 20, and bind that variable name apple to that new object. We have now new binding apple and 20, but the 400 is still there in the memory. Okay, unlike other languages, in other languages that 400 will be overwritten by 20, but that's not the case in Python. In Python, the variable name, let's say apple, will only point to the location of the new object. Alright? In C++, we would declare this apple as int apple, right? But Python does not require that explicit declaration. So it dynamically infers the variable types. Okay? We have rules in naming our variable. So that unique name is technically called an identifier. A variable can contain letters, digits, and underscores, but it cannot have space. It cannot start also with a digit, and it cannot be a reserved keyword such as int return class, and it is case sensitive. So which means this age with lowercase a is different from this age with uppercase a. Examples of valid identifier. So we have age, okay, contains only letters. Underscore salary, so it can start with underscore, that is valid. Grade, then digit 1, so grade 1, that is valid. Total underscore price, so that is valid. Now these are examples of invalid identifier. So we have first rank, so it cannot start with a digit, okay, that is invalid. We have class, so class is a reserved keyword, okay, so this is invalid. Total price, so it must have an underscore, so it cannot have space, okay, so this total space price is invalid. Okay, so let's have a simple exercise. So which of these are allowed in Python? Okay, number 1, this is valid, right? So we can assign 6 to x, but this one is invalid. We cannot assign x to 6, right? This one is also invalid. Okay, so let's try that out later. How about these two, last two? So one is with underscore, the other one is with the word try. Okay, so let's verify in Jupyter Notebook. Okay, so let's create first markdown. Okay, let's label this as variables. Okay, so let's try some code. First, we have x equals 6. Okay, that is valid. We can print the value, so using the print function. So print x. Okay, so we have 6. Okay, another one. Okay, so let's try 6 equals x. Okay, obviously that is invalid. Okay, another one. Let's try x times y. So we have operator that asterisk equals, for example, 3 plus 4. Okay, that is invalid. Okay. But this one, xy equals 3 plus 4. So this is valid. So xy is the name of the variable. It's not like math that you are multiplying x times y. Okay, so xy is one name. Okay, so we can display the value by simply typing xy, or you can use the print function. So it has the same result. Okay, so another one is, let's try. Okay, this name try equals the string me. Okay, so actually try is a reserved keyword. Okay, so that's why it is invalid. But the underscore try equals me. Okay, this is valid. Okay, so we can display the content of this variable. So just simply type the name underscore try. Okay, so it has a string value. Okay, so well done. Now we can save this in our GitHub account. Okay, so let's open the get bash. Actually, I have pinned it on my taskbar, but if you haven't pinned it, you can search. Okay, so just type get bash, then open. Okay, in my case, I will access this in my taskbar. Okay, so let me arrange this window. Okay, so let's open our folder. Okay, so in my case, my Madrona folder. Okay, so we will change directory to this folder. Okay, so we have cd space, then just drag the folder. Okay, so I am now in my Madrona directory. Okay, so let's have git status. So we have color red, so one unstage file. So this is the one we have currently created notebook. Okay, so let's stage this one simply by get add. Okay, space, then dot. Okay, now we can check the status again. So it turned green, so we can commit now. Okay, so just git commit -m, then your message, let's say add L2. Okay. Okay, next is just git push. Okay, so just wait for the file to be uploaded. Okay, so we're done. We can verify if it is successfully uploaded in our GitHub. So just open your GitHub account, then browse to your repository. Okay, so this is my folder kay Madrona. So let's check. Okay, so there it is. Okay, the L2. So just open that up. Okay, well done. We have successfully saved our L2 exercise to our GitHub account. And this ends my lecture for today. Thank you for learning with me, and see you in the next lesson.